morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar from TriStar. My name is Thiagu Palaniappan. Today, the topic is going to be, talking about the updates in Creo 4.0 in the next hour or so. Just a few things before we start the presentation. This webinar will be recorded. So if you would like to look at the webinar replay, or if some of your coworkers would would like to see this webinar, please point them to our resource center or in our YouTube channel. We will have this recording made available by the end of the day. Just a few things regarding the time-limited offers from TriStar that's being offered this quarter. You have a few offers on Creo extensions. You can trade in your existing licenses with for 3 free Creo extensions, one of the 3 Creo extensions. You also have a time-limited offer on Creo training, general PTC training, as well as an offer on PTC MathCAD, as well as the perpetual PTC licensing. So which is going to be the end of this year. As you know, PTC's it'll be the last quarter with the perpetual licensing, so you can take advantage of those offers. If you would like to know more information about these, please reach out to our reps at TriStar, or please visit tristar.com, and there will be more information regarding these time-limited offers. From an agenda standpoint, I just wanted to try my best to cover as many topics as possible. The core areas, mainly the user interface, part modeling, sketcher, assembly drawing, surfacing, and sheet metal. And if time permits, we can even talk about a few more additional things like additive manufacturing, as well as pro welding, some of the enhancements that was done in a variety of areas in Creo in 4.0. And towards the end, we will have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, feel free to start typing in those question area. Currently, all of you are muted, but towards the end, I'll try my best to answer as many questions as I can. Creo 4, the biggest enhancement, or from a usability standpoint, in my view, is the mini toolbar and the full screen mode. Right, the mini toolbar is essentially divided into 3 rows, wherein you can have your editing operations, your feature creation operations, as well as your visibility operations. So you no longer really have to do a right mouse click. You're pretty much selecting the geometry, whether it's a surface or an edge or a component, what have you. The system automatically gives you, based on the context, a mini toolbar, and you can customize this mini toolbar. Out of the box, it has kind of the most of the common operations. Like, for example, you selected a surface, you should be able to create a plane off of it, or maybe extrude or sketch or create a hole on it. But maybe you want to offset that surface. That may not be available, but you should simply be able to customize that mini toolbar and add as many commands as you would like, right? So the intent behind this mini toolbar is the user's focus is going to be on the design rather than the software, right? Where the user interface is smooth, etc. You don't have to do that. You're just focusing on your design, right? With less mouse travel, making you more efficient when you use Creo 4.0. And it works in part mode, sheet metal, sketch mode, right, what have you, right, except drawing. Pretty much all modes have this mini toolbar. That you see some screenshots in here. Even in Creo Simulate, right, when you select a surface and you want to apply a load, or you want to apply a constraint, you can use a mini toolbar. In Sketcher, I want to select a geometry or a couple of lines or a couple of circles, and I want to make them equal, or I want to apply some rules on them, right, geometric rules, what we call constraints. All those constraints are made available, as you can see here, right? So these are constraints, right? You can add dimensions. You have some conversion tools, locking dimensions, etc., right? If you select a feature, or if you select a component in assembly mode, then you will get a different list depending on how you customize that, right? But by default, out of the box, it does give you a pretty good one if you have a sheet metal model. And if you select the edge of a sheet metal, you should be able to extend it. So you have the extend command. You should be able to add a flange wall or a flat wall, or maybe add a hem. If you select a surface, you should be able to bend it. So the mini toolbar is one of the big things that happened in Creo 4, one of my favorites when I used Creo 4.0. Combined with the full screen mode, the mini toolbar and the full screen mode really allows you to, maximize your graphics area, right? You have more real estate essentially to work on the CAD model. And also you don't have to, your mouse travel, right? You're not looking for commands in the ribbon or different tabs. You can get it if required on demand. It will show up, but by default, you can just say hit F11. It pretty much gives you a full screen mode, and except the graphics toolbar, right, where you can access that for quick view orientations, or maybe changing it from a hidden line style to a shaded with edges, etc. The full screen mode is kind of what I would suggest using when you use Creo 4.0, wherein the mini toolbar essentially, it helps you do design faster, right, rather than searching for the commands. The number of keyboard shortcuts, many of you may be using Mac keys, but Creo 4 has a lot of built-in keyboard shortcuts. So it has a list, as you can, the screenshot, you can see that the commands with assigned shortcuts, it's already built into the system. And you can also create your own. So you can go and say, show me all the commands that does not have shortcuts, and then you will be able to create your own shortcuts. And it'll give you a red flag, or it'll tell you that if that particular shortcut is already being used by the system for some other command. So compared to the previous releases where all we had was Control-C, Control-V, or Control-Z, Control-Y for undo, redo, and the usual Windows one, like the Control-G for regenerate, or Control-D for standard view. Creo 4 has a lot more shortcuts, and you no longer have to record the command like you used to do with the map keys, right? You no longer have to create a map key and then go and record your clicks, mouse clicks, and then that saves the map key. You can still do it if you wish for multiple commands, but all the commands are there, and then it's just a matter of you going in and adding a shortcut that you wish right in here. So if and when you update to Creo 4.0, try to challenge yourselves in just using the full screen mode without the interface, without the ribbon, right, without the model tree. You're just focusing on your design, right? So here's an example of an art to part, as I call it, right, where I've captured my design intent as a skeleton, or maybe I have my sketches done, I have my datum features, what have you, and then the next step is obviously to create the solid model. And in order to do that, right, traditionally we would go to the command and then select the geometry or the sketch. But then with Creo 4, you should try the F11 and then just select the sketch, and then start using the keyboard shortcuts. For example, for an extrude, you should have a shortcut for an extrude. To create a plane, you should be able to hit P. To sketch a rectangle, you should be able to hit R. So there's a lot of predefined macros, if you like keyboard shortcuts or the mini toolbar. So the combination of the keyboard shortcuts, the mini toolbar, and the full screen is really going to help you design faster, smarter, with the power of Creo that we all know, right? You can also assign appearance states, very helpful in part models as well as assembly models, where I might want to have different, for example, I might want to have different colors for different surfaces, right, in the same model, but different states. So I should be able to go to the view manager and say, okay, give me an engineering view versus a manufacturing view from a standpoint of color, right? I want to show all the machine surfaces in my casting, for example. I would like to show that with a certain color, right? Or in an assembly, I would like to have different colors and appearances, textures, what have you, for different parts. But then I should be able to capture that as an appearance, right? You should not clear an appearance and then create another or apply another appearance. You can have as many appearance states as you want, and also use that in the combination states in the view manager. As for materials, you do have quite a huge list of materials compared to the old legacy library that we had. So all the way on the left-hand side, you can see the old legacy materials, but then PTC has partnered with Granita, and then you have over 50 materials predefined. You can always customize them. And these are the new materials. You can see that how they are categorized with subfolders, and inside of that, they do have the MTL files. Quite a big, huge list, I thought, compared to the previous releases of Creo. Let's take a look at the things that I talked about before we move further. So I have Creo 4 in here. From the get-go, you're able to go into your appearance, and you've got like 3 themes to begin with: the light theme, the dark theme, right, and the default theme, which is kind of like a grayish theme, right? Let's say I like this theme, and I'm going to use this theme. The F11, and I hit F11, or I should be able to click on this command right here, right, this icon right there, that essentially takes me to a full screen mode, right? And I'm in full screen mode, and I should be able to pretty much select a geometry. The geometry is a default selection filter now, and I should be able to activate that part, for example, or I should be able to select any geometry and say, let's open that part in a separate window, right? And if I go back to my full screen mode on this part right here, I should be able to select the surface. I should be able to hit edit, right? Should be able to go do edit definition. So you can see that you really don't have to go all the way at the top to access your dashboard or your ribbon tab. If required, it comes up on demand. As I mouse over right to the left, maybe I want to take a look at my model tree where it exists, or maybe here it gives you, but by default, right? Might be maybe a good practice starting Creo 4 to start using the full screen and the mini toolbar. Now, as I'm doing this, right, I notice that I have the ability to create a plane, right? I could quickly create an offset plane. I could start sketching on it, etc. But I'm looking for a command, like one of the commands that's not in here, right? Maybe an offset feature. I'd like to offset that or create an offset surface. I could just quickly right mouse on that and customize it, right? And these are all the commands that I have in Creo, right? And I should be able to just search for the command. And there's my offset, and I should be able to just put it right in, right, wherever I would like to have something like that, right? So I already have it in there, but there it goes. And now I should be able to just say, hey, let's just go offset, right, and use an expand draft. You still can access your dashboard if required, but, pretty nice feature. Pretty good way and new workflow, right, of using the full screen mode and the mini toolbar if required. You can always, and also some of the keyboard shortcuts that you might want to use is, for example, I can just go to my options here, and so you look at all the keyboard shortcuts, commands with assigned shortcuts right there. So you get a huge list, from the get-go. It gives you like view, normal, shift, and right shading with edges. They have pretty much most of the commonly used commands that you use for navigating or while working on your 3D model. They're available as a keyboard shortcut, but you could always say, show me the commands without assigned shortcuts, right? That's an option too, where now it's showing without assigned shortcuts, as you can see here, right? And I should be able to just go, okay, so I can just go to one of my features here, right? And one of my commands here, and I can type in any shortcut that I wish. So better than recording it by clicking it and then recording it using the Mac keys, right? So. And F11 essentially takes that out, right? So that's about the interface with the mini toolbar. So I have an assembly here, and maybe I want to open this this body, and I'm looking to, again, let me just use the full screen mode here. I have the graphics window here, but as for the appearances, right, I'd like to go to my view manager, and I can just set up a few appearances. I have a master appearance and a default appearance, but let me just do a new appearance here. We'll just call it demo here. Now, let's say I want to assign one of these appearances here for the entire part, right? So what I've applied is an appearance for the entire part. It's in some color, right? It's glass, or I gave it a transparent color right here, so I could go shading with edges, for example, to see the edges. Maybe I'm interested in selecting all the inner geometry here, right? And I would like to give a specific color to that surface. Again, I'm going to use my seed and boundary selection, right? Let's just go shift and select all these, right? So so quickly I was able to get all the inner surfaces by just selecting a seed and all the boundary surfaces. And I should be able to just go say, okay, let's say I want to give a different color for that. And that's what is going to be saved in there, right? So there it goes, right? I can do a copy of it, or I could go back to my master appearance, and I could just say do a copy or just add a new appearance right there. Let's call it this for engineering, right? And I should be able to go just add a totally different appearance, right? With different colors or even different, so I could just say, hey, this surface should have that color. So I have my appearance here, I have my appearance here, master appearance, right, the default. And similarly, I should be able to, so I just did a Control W to close out that, right? In assembly mode also, you should be able to, let's see if I could open up my assembly again. In assembly also in the view manager, I should be able to go to appearance states and create a bunch of appearances, right? So let's say that's an appearance where I probably want to go select this part, apply this color here, I want to go with this guy here, right? And then I can go back to my master appearance and I can, like this, keep creating several appearance states, right? Can go back here, goes. So I have different appearance states, and this could be part of your overall combo states as well, right? You can redefine your combo and you can reference the appearance states. Right? Moving on to part modeling here, a few nice enhancements. When you do the extrude, you do get the second direction depth in the right mouse button, and you're also able to assign a negative depth to the second direction. So your sketching plane could be somewhere, however, your extrude need not be on either side of the sketching plane. It could be on just on one side. I'll show that with an example. And also you can control the up to surface or to selected reference. It could be offset linearly, right? You could do a translate or an offset. And one of my favorites on the part modeling side is the mid-plane creation. You can quickly create a mid-plane when you select two geometries. It could be two edges, two surfaces, two curved edges. I just want to have a datum plane that I forgot when I created my initial design. I forgot to think about my design intent to mirror it. Maybe now I need a plane, right? I know I could use a point and create the center and right relations, but you should be able to create a quick mid-plane between the two surfaces. So you have a mid-plane option. And the hole, right? You can create a hole on curved surfaces really quickly and also control the orientation of the hole, right? You no longer have to have the hole normal to the surface. It could be at any angle from that point. So typically what happens is when you select a curved surface and you create a hole using the point has to be on the surface. Now you don't have to have the point or the surface, but you could also control the orientation, right? So sometimes you might have a non-90-degree hole on a flat surface. You no longer have to do a revolved cut or an extrude cut or do some angular datum planes, etc. All you have to really do is create a hole and select the point and then use the orientation as a reference. You have some additional options there. You can also go to insert mode within a group. So when you have a group like this, you no longer have to ungroup it and then go to insert mode. You can do that right away, right? You can just drag. You see my insert mode is within a group without ungrouping it, right? And when you convert your models, let's say from English units, from inch to millimeters or millimeters, vice versa, you have some config options to control the accuracy, right? Do you want to convert the accuracy or do you want to keep it the same? You have that's a new enhancement in Creo 4.0. So let's take a look at some of the part modeling enhancements here. So if I were to open this, let's see. So I have a part here, a simple sketch, and again, I'm using my mini toolbar to it's almost like I'm forcing myself to using the mini toolbar by using the full screen. Yeah, I know, the shift key, like in the previous release, I should be able to snap to that surface, but the second side, you always have to go to options here, right? And then go to the second side. But instead of that, how about just, you're focusing on your design right here, you just right mouse on it and say, let's go to the side 2. And the side 2, again, right, I know I can go this side, but what about a negative depth, right? Even though my sketching plane is there, I can give it a negative depth. I don't have to go back and edit the definition of the sketching plane and then to have this work, right? So this will help. And also with the offset, when you do a toSelected, you got a couple of options, right? Wherein I can offset that surface without the need to create an additional plane, a negative or a positive offset, or I should be able to translate. When I translate that, as you can see, it translates inside, so it depends on what kind of offset you want, right? I mean, it's going to offset from the face, or it's going to translate along the extrude direction. That's really what's happening here, right? This is going along the extrude direction versus this is trying to. It's still keeping it reference to that. It's almost like the system creating an imaginary surface for it to go, rather than you going to, datum and then creating a new plane there. Okay. This works on revolve features as well, right? You could do, so if I had this and if I want to do a revolve, I could do one side, the second side, same thing goes, right? So there's my first side, and I should be able to go to a side 2, and there's my side 2, right? So if I have a design like this, maybe it was imported geometry, right, and I forgot to use my default datum planes or something, I should be able to simply select the two surfaces here, and I need a mid-plane, right, between the two. So I should be able to go select the surface, hit plane, and select the surface, and it understands to use the mid-plane option right there, okay? Create a mid-plane right in the center. Not only that, I should be able to go create mid-planes. For example, I should be able to just go and say, okay, let's create a mid-plane right in here. When I do a mid-plane right in here, you get two options, right? You can either use the bisector 1 or the bisector 2. Or you should be able to go select these two surfaces and create a plane there, right? Given edges, I should be able to select the geometry here, create a plane, switch that to mid-plane, and there it goes, right? I should be able to select a mid-plane right between those two edges. So I've just had my planes hidden, but you get the idea here as to how I'm able to use that mid-plane command pretty much for, on an edge like this, on the circular edge right there at the hole. I should be able to go even mid-plane, actually not the edge, but the surface, right? If I go to the surface and say, type in P, I should get a plane through it, but I should be able to go mid-plane and say, let's go through the mid-plane of the two surfaces there. Okay. Sketching, you can find you're now able to clip the model, the sketching plane. So you don't have to go to a no hidden style like in this design right here. If I need to go into, I'm sketching something on that face right there, Instead of using shaded views, sometimes you may have to get a no-hidden style to look at the geometry, right? You want to essentially clip it, or maybe create a temporary cross-section. But while sketching, you just say, I want to clip the plane, and it'll clip it for you with the color of the clipping plane being the same as it's derived from the 3D model color. And you can change the thickness of your sketched entities from 1 to up to 3 units thick. And you also have the mini toolbar sketch mode, right? And you can see all the constraints. They're all having those same commands, icons instead of the L, R, and all that for left, or equal radii, or constraint, or collinear, right? They use the same commands. To add references, all you have to do is you just have to visit the geometry. And when you visit the geometry, it will quickly add references. You could add references in the Alt key. However, just for example, in here, as I'm sketching, I cursor over this edge, and it understands to give me a midpoint guide, an end guide, and a guide here, so I can quickly snap to that geometry while sketching. So much better workflow, right? So let's take a quick look at some of the Sketcher enhancements here. So if I do have a sketch in here wherein I might want to drag select. So when I do a selection like this, it's going to select everything inside. When I do a selection like this, it's going to select everything that's crossing. So the AutoCAD type selection technique is available in sketch mode. Depending on, are you sketching the rectangle from the left to the right, or from the right to the left, right? Depending on that. So that's improved. So I want to quickly mirror this over. I can do that using that selection technique. Very helpful for complex sketches too. So if I want to quickly sketch on a face here, I want to start sketching on that face. I would like to see the inside geometry, or I want to clip it. I should be able to simply click on this clip model right here, and it should clip the model for me. It's a temporary. As soon as I'm done sketching, it should unclip it, right? So, and whenever you sketch, right, the entities, like when you do any shape that you want, right? So let's say I'm going to sketch my rectangle here, and that's so thin for me, and I'd like to make it thicker. On the Sketcher settings, you should be able to control the line thickness here. For example, let's set it to a larger value here. You could go up to 3, right? Regarding constraints, so when you start adding constraints, you can see those constraint commands shown up, right? So that's telling me it's coincident versus vertical. You have 2 choices there, right? We'll set it to vertical right now. I've sketched let's say I sketched something right like that where I meant it to be horizontal, but it's not. I should be able to simply select that geometry, right, and set it to horizontal right there. Or I should still be able to, just add my automatic constraints. So it's parallel right now as I'm dragging it. It's parallel and equal. Maybe I don't want to make it equal, so I'm just going to do a right click so you see, if you notice in here, I have 2 options here, and just using my right mouse click, it's kind of like a query selection. I'm toggling, and I'm saying I don't want that constraint, right? So it's again like this. Now I could go to the Tab key in my keyboard and say, maybe I want to make that, I want to lock the parallel but not equal, something like that, right? So pretty much all the constraints you see in here are pretty much the same as what you see in here for the commands, right? And you're able to do that quickly with, you can do that in full screen mode without the need to go to the ribbon, and you're focusing on the design using those mini toolbar again. So in Sheetmetal, you have quite a few enhancements, one of the biggest thing being flexible modeling. So some of you may have to work with non-Creo files, wherein you may have gotten a sheet metal part that was done in another CAD system. It could be something like maybe it could be SolidWorks, or it could be in Banner, or it could just be a step file, and you're trying to make changes to that. You're trying to flatten it. You're trying to change the bend radius. You're trying to change the dimensions. And obviously, since it's a dumb solid, you're unable to do that. But now that the flexible modeling extension support sheet metal in Creo 4, you have sheet metal specific editing tools inside of Creo 4. So this could be a part model that was not done in Creo 4, right? It was not even done in any of the Creo. It's in a non-Creo file. It also works in Creo files, but then the intent is, you can just go drag geometries, edit geometries, change the bend radius, right? You have sheet metal specific tools like modification tools, feature recognition tools. You can even remove. So I don't have to go to the feature tree and do an edit definition. I want to do a quick move, and I can give dimensions to it too, right? As you can see here. And when you do an enclosure, for example, you have a flat wall and you add multiple slant walls. The corner relief, right? When you the edge treatment, you have an option to close the corner now, so you can see the difference between the previous releases and what we have in Creo 4. You're able to close the corner. You can, of course, change the relief type to an off-round, rectangular, or you can even do a custom one by unbending it, creating the cut and then bending it back. But then the usability of these features. For example, the twist wall, right? It has a much better UI where you're really able to see what's going on. So you're able to click on the drag handle, specify the end width, start width, specify the angle, the counterclockwise angle there, and then the length of the twist, right? And when you convert solid models into sheet metal parts, you have better control on the relief types or edge bends. So let's see if I could show you a quick one on the sheet metal. So I have a design here which it could be done in Creo, it need not be done in Creo, right? But I should be able to go to flexible modeling and identify that as a sheet metal design. And so it gives me the pull wall command. I should be able to pull the wall, and I should be able to drag that wall, right? I should be able to just drag that wall, or maybe use this pull wall. And when I did this one, when I dragged this, as you can see, it's trying to extend it. So it's doing more of a geometry edit, right? So if I do this one, you can see what it's pulling, right? So this is something that, it's more like a geometry edit. We really don't care about the origin of this sheet metal design. We don't care what features were used to create it. It could be done in a totally different CAD system, but you're able to edit that using sheet metal specific editing tools, right? You can also move, you can do offset, you can edit the bend, right? For example, I want to edit the bend, there it goes, right? So this particular sheet metal could be done in a totally different CAD system. However, it's able to identify the inside bend radius that I could change, or maybe, I could even change the, I could change the angle, right? Change the outside right there, right? I could even change there it goes, right? Depending on the inside bend radius and the outside bend radius, you might get, but you are able to edit the bend radius, even though the sheet metal part was not done in Creo specifically, right? And I also have the mini toolbar that's supported in the sheet metal. The way you create a twist wall now is essentially going in here. I mean, let's say there's something that I don't have in my toolbar, I could just go and customize that. I can just say, sheet metal, give me the twist right there, and let's add that in there. There it goes, right? And all this will be part of your config.ui, the user interface, just like how you used to customize ribbon, right? Very similar to that. So moving forward, when I collect an edge, I should get that twist wall right there, and I should be able to just, it's a lot more dynamic in the sense it's dashboard driven. You can make it from the center. You can control the end width or the start width. You can control the angle, right, and also the the length of it, etc. Right. So all this was possible in the previous releases, but with Creo 4, it's really making the focus is on usability, like I said, right. You're able to use all these the power that Creo has had for the last 20 years or so, but then it's really very intuitive and very simple and easy to use for any new user, right, with experience or without experience. When you have form features like a die form or a punch form, you now have the ability to control it as the dependency of it, right? You can either, you have the option to go and say, I'd like to do an automatic update when the original tool, when the punch model gets updated, or do a manual update, or just make it independent. And so you have the inheritance, you have done it as an inheritance feature here. So for the surfacing, people write, if you do a lot of industrial design, you probably are aware of the freestyle and the style features that you have had in Creo for some time now. If you use a freestyle, you can now use multiple objects, as you can see here, right? We could create. So I used one object here, a second object here, and then I can connect them, right? So that's possible now. And also you can import OBJ files. I mean, you could import OBJ files in Creo previously. However, into the environment of freestyle, you're able to import the OBJ files. And also in the style environment, they do give you a higher degree of control for the curvature continuity on the acceleration. So G1, G2, and now it's G3. You can also apply a G3 continuity between the two surfaces. So you would see the change in curvature from this surface to this surface is also going to be gradual, right? You wouldn't see a sudden change in there, right? With G2, all you get is, okay, there's no, it's curvature continuous, but now what about that degree, right? What about changing curvature from on the other side of the boundary to this side of the boundary? I could just control that acceleration, so you have a new G3 acceleration continuity that you can specify inside of the style environment. And when you have closed loop splines inside the style, you have the ability to convert it to a periodic or a non-periodic curve. So I can just flip that, as you can see here, and use it for other operations. So what I mean by the surfacing, maybe let me just take a quick look at the surfacing also here. So this was done using the freestyle, right? That's included in the base package in here. Now let's go to this freestyle, and when I redefine it, you could see how it has been done with multiple shapes, right? Two shapes. I can insert shapes, right? The following shapes in here, or I can import a mesh, and that could be the OBJ file directly. So as you know, freestyle is subdivisional based modeling. So essentially like clay modeling, right? For quick concept design, it's very helpful. So I should be able to just select these regions or the faces from the mesh from multiple bodies, and I should be able to connect it. There it goes, and manipulate it. Similarly, I could keep doing that on all the sides. So we're essentially converting using multiple shapes to do your concept design, and then finally you're converting into one shape. Assembly, we talked about the appearance states that's available in assembly state in the view manager. The regeneration icon, the red, yellow, green stoplight has been replaced by this little regenerate icon. So if your model is out of date, for example, your mask properties are out of date, or maybe you forgot to hit regenerate, right? It will let you know right here that it requires regeneration. If it's grayed out, everything is cool, right? That's what it means. It's kind of like the old green stoplight. And you do have the notification, right? So this notification, if something fails, you will see a red flag. You click on that, and then the notification center opens up, telling you why it failed, and then you take it from there, right? It could be a missing reference, it could be a missing component, etc. When you work on really large assemblies, you no longer have to use the old simplified reps that we used to have for a long time. They have a new automatic rep that automatically uses the most lightweight graphics rep possible. So when you say, whenever you want to open a very large assembly, try opening it with the automatic rep. It by default, what it tries to do is it's bringing in the light graphics surface. So if you want to do like a measurement or an operation on it, you can on demand say, I would like to have the geometry, or I'd like to convert it to a master. But by default, you could just say, give me the automatic rep. A great way to work with large assemblies from a performance standpoint, because you don't want every single thing, every single detail to be loaded when you work in a large assembly, and the automatic rep is very beneficial for that. There's a new symmetric analysis when you try to mirror a subassembly inside of a top-level assembly or a component. The system tries to it analyzes the geometries that are available inside of the parts and the features, and it'll help you make that decision. Should I be reusing this, or should I mirror this geometry, or should I exclude it, right? So it's going to help you through that process, which you can override, of course, but from the get-go, it gives you a pretty good symmetry recognition, or what we call symmetry analysis tool, right? So I'll kind of show that in a little bit here. You can also make your components flexible. So when you have multiple materials, you could add multiple materials at the top level, and then you could say, I want this component without the need to create a family table. You could just say, I would like to have a different material for a specific occurrence of that part, right, using flexible materials. And then you can manually add reference backups, or you can remove external references, right? So as you can see under the placement tab, you have the ability to go to your model tree and show references. So there was an external reference that was used. Maybe they didn't use top-down design. They just referenced component A to component B. You can just right mouse on that part and say, I would like to back up the references, or remove the backed up references, right? If it's manually done, you'll be able to remove it. If it's done by the system, you'll not be able to remove it. And you can also create a local copy geometry in the parts. You no longer have to be in the assembly mode to create a local copy geometry. You can be in your part and then do a local copy geometry. Let's take a look at some of those. So I'd like to open a component here real quick, an assembly. So just like opening representations, I can open an automatic representation. So when I say automatic representation, there it goes, right? It is kind of like giving you the light graphics. So if I hover over the surface, as you can see, it's a light surface, right? What if I really want that geometry? I should be able to just select this, and my mini toolbar allows me to retrieve the geometry. So it's kind of like saying, give me the most lightweight possible. I don't want to create my reps ahead of time, or this is almost like from the get-go, you open any assembly. If you get a very large assembly with a lot of details in it, and you want to retrieve it really, really fast, just use retrieve the geometry, or I should say automatic assembly. And then as required, you could say, okay, for whatever reason, I want to retrieve that geometry. I want to work on it. I want to do some edit or edit definition on it. So I could do some operations on it, and then it automatically goes back to automatic rep. So as you all know, large assembly management is one of the strong points of Creo, right, for several years, right? That's the main reason why heavy engineering industries use Creo or the old Pro Engineer. And the continuous improvement has been done, and now with Creo 4, it's really nice that they have this automatic rep, and the automatic rep it's not just for opening your assemblies. You can even open a rep as automatic. So if I have an assembly, maybe I'll just go to the same assembly here, and I know I can do an open rep, and let's say, I do have some reps in here. If I go to my preview, I have an inside rep, an engine rep. So these are different reps, right, that I've created. Just that it's almost like I'm making it lightweight. I'm not unnecessarily retrieving every single component in there, right? So I should be able to, I should be able to just open, for example, this one, right? If I open right now, all these components that you see that are included will open as full geometry with full definition. But I should be able to say, open that. So it's kind of like saying, I would like to open your rep, I would like to see your rep, and then open it as an automatic rep. So it's like on the fly, it's doing the light surface again. There it goes, right? All these are light. So you can also see how it's telling that you have some excluded. The default is excluded, but whatever is in there, right? So the impellers there, a few components within the engine. There are a few components that are there right here. So these are the components that we included, but the included are set to automatic rep with those light surfaces. So big enhancement on the performance side when you work on assemblies. When you mirror an assembly, so I would like to create a mirror of this entire assembly. I do a save as for mirror assembly. Of course, I could give it a name. I can make it dependent or independent, but I could also perform a symmetry analysis. At the time, I could say, what should I do, right? Should I consider curved surfaces? For example, if I had a skeleton, it's not going to mirror that, right? It's going to ignore it. But if I go to my advanced tab here, it kind of tells me right here, if I just do a preview, it has done the mirror for me. I've yet to commit to it. However, it identified the stopper, cover, the subassembly. As you can see, those are mirrored, as you can see. The symmetry analysis automatically did that. However, when it came to the stopper plug, right, which makes sense, it just reused it, right? It didn't see a reason to mirror that geometry. And then the stopper screw, as you can see, these are being reused. Now, of course, I could always go to these guys and say, hey, let's go and exclude that, right? Of course, I don't need those screws to be on the other side. It's just these, right? So you can override what it gave, but it's pretty quick to do the mirror assembly, especially when you have that symmetric analysis with really large assemblies. Okay, and that works for parts and subassembly mirror as well. The drawing, PTC's focus, you might have heard about it, is very much on the model-based design, right? That's something that's been, the annotate feature in 3D mode has been there since Wildfire 2.0. And with Creo 4, they've really improved the workflows on, how you can do this in 3D or in 2D. So let's say in 2D mode, you're going to create a geometric tolerances, right? You need to place a GTOL. You have to set the datum first, and then you have to create the GTOL. Now it's a lot more quicker for all these, whether you want to do a datum target or datum feature symbol. You can have semantic reference, for example. So if you rename that datum, you will see it update in the GTOL. They also have a pre-built syntax checking. So if I try to, for example, here in this one, I try to apply a symbol that's not supported in the 14.5 2009 standard, it will give you a warning. Similar to that, when you apply a GTOL, for example, you're trying to apply a flatness to a cylindrical geometry or a concentricity to a flat geometry, it should kind of give you, right? So maybe you're new, it should kind of give you a little warning telling that it's not possible. So there's it's all behind the scenes. There's a company called Sheetmetal, and they have something called GTOL Advisor that allows you to really check for all these when you apply your GTOLs. It's a lot easier than before, right? And you can quickly replace views when you have a family table design or a simplified rec. If you have a drawing, you want to quickly replace the views. It'll try to keep the dimensions all that it can, and the rest of it won't be there. It's a quick way to replace the view model of all the views in the drawing sheet if it has a family table instance or if it has a simplified way. It also supports the industry standard pattern files .pat. It used to be the XCH before, and you can also have non-linear pattern styles starting Creo 4. Okay. Quick look at that. So I have a 2D drawing, pretty straight, simple part here, and if I need to add data, right? So I'm not setting the datum anymore. I'm just adding a datum feature symbol right here, right? So if I go to the datum feature symbol, there it goes. And I thought this is long overdue, right? I mean, it should be as simple as that, right? So if I go to the datum feature symbol, I should be able to add another one right here. And maybe I'd like an elbow here, or for whatever reason I wanted to make that into a C. I just change it. So you see the layout, at the top, as you can see here, there's a datum. Whenever I select on that, it's almost like I'm editing the property of that guy, right? I just say, okay, I want to have it a C. There it goes, right? Similarly, I can keep adding references. I mean, of course, I can always show. So if I have, I can always show it in the model if there's any datums done. I should be able to go show model annotations. I should be able to say show datum, and I can just show by view. So for example, this H was something that I had in the design in the 3D model, right? As part of my MBD, I defined it there. I should be able to show that, right? But this is something I created quickly here, right? Similar to that, if I want to add a datum target, I want to add a datum target here, I should be able to just go to datum target, select a reference, and then, that's pretty much it. Now, what kind of an area I would like? Do I have to really do a draft area, or can I just do a circular area or a rectangular area, right? I could just control the let's say 1x2 or something like that right there. Or maybe I want to make it a mobile target. I can just rotate the symbol, right? So you see the ease with which I'm doing all this, right? You could be a new user and you could just see how, do you want to go to the far side or the near side, right? No leader, with leader, right? Straight leader, it should be on the outside, or just say just a regular symbol there, okay? So really quickly to create those, I can also attach, for example, I want to create a datum feature symbol on this. Look at this, right? I should be able to attach it there. I want to create a datum feature symbol on this dimension. There it goes. I should be able to say, okay, I don't want it there. I want it right here. So so now when I move the dimension, right? So pretty quick and easy to apply those. Or if I were to apply a datum feature symbol on a datum, there it goes, right? So really quickly, hopefully, if you have not been using applying GD&T in Creo so far, I'm sure you can start using it, as it's quite easy to place in it now, right? It's a very quick and easy. So if I go show you some more examples really quickly here, maybe let's see. So I need to assign a perpendicular GTOL, for example, to this face, let's say, right? All I have to really do is go to the GTOL right here, and that an old dialog box getting, and then you have to walk through it. The system is helping you through it, right? Now you know what to do. You're essentially selecting that geometry there, and once you select that geometry, now this is really helpful, right? This entire thing right here. So all you're doing is moving from the left to the right, with your options. Pretty straightforward, right? And all you're saying is that here I get to specify, for example, let's say we want to do perpendicular, right? And what is the datum, right, for that? Again, I should be able to select that and say, okay, my datum reference. I should be able to simply select this. There it goes. That's my datum reference, right? I should be able to add symbols to it, right? I could just go to my symbols. I could add symbols there. So you could see the ease of it here, applying these three things that I just quickly showed. Or if you want to replace a drawing, so you're done with a drawing and you have this dimension, etc. right here, but I should be able to quickly replace the view model. So I just go to replace the view model and I select the parent view, and as you can see, it automatically picks up the children really quickly. And I should be able to say, okay, just go with its family table instance or simprep, and I should be able to just say without handles. I just swap the views with a different instance of the family table, and you see how it tries to keep whatever dimensions possible. Or I should be able to go replace view model and say, let's use a simplified rep. As you know, you can create part level simplified rep, add the holes filled to that rep. There it goes. Right. So as we are getting close to here, just getting through this, just a couple more things on the Creo 4 weld, right? You know, Pro welding, as you know, has been there. You know, it's something that's included in the base license for a long, long time. From the old Pro engineer days, it's been there, but it never was solid, right? It was just a surface. Creo 4, you can create a solid weld, so which means you can use it for analyses, right? And also the mass properties are going to be more accurate, right? It's a fillet weld or a plug weld, or so for all that, it's going to be a solid geometry, and you can have accurate mass properties, and you can use it in Creo Simulate. If you use Creo Simulate, you can access this inside of Simulate as well. Many of you may have heard of the additive manufacturing, has how the industries are adopting additive manufacturing. So PTC is trying to bridge the gap between the 3D CAD model and the additive manufacturing world. So the first step obviously was in Creo 3, they introduced a 3D print, right? So if you have a Stratasys printer, you are able to check for printability, place it on the tray, all that you're able to do right from within Creo, right? Instead of exporting an STL and then doing that in the printer software, you're able to do that instead of Creo, right? Now, there's also this additive manufacturing file that you can create wherein you're able to create the lattice structure, right? So they support 2.5D and 3D lattice structures like honeycomb styles, right? Hexagon, octagon, all those are predefined. And all you're doing is selecting the surfaces where you want, the internal surfaces you want, and you're able to use this for optimization, right? So you could take this design into Creo Simulate and run an optimization study for weight, for example. As you can see here, I've optimized on the weight, right? So just a quick note on that one. And maybe I'll wrap it up with this here. If you need to create really cool images of your products, obviously for sales and marketing purposes, the rendering, so Creo 4 render is powered by, by Keyshot, right? So they partnered with Luxian, and they have, it's pretty good now. So let me quickly demonstrate that one last thing here. I could open up an assembly. So I'm just going with shading with reflections, and I just say let's do an ambient occlusion so that the areas where the light is occluded will be darker, giving you a much more realistic view. I want to add the scene background also, but I would like to go to perspective view. You see it applied the scene. I should be able to go to change the scene from, let's see here, we'll just go use the scene right here. There it goes, right? So just really quickly, I was able to create a decent amount of rendering here. Now I'm thinking for these, for the parts, maybe I want some metals here, so maybe some let's see if I could pick up a specific aluminum made one. Let's just say I want to get these parts, and you can see the finish there. Or if I want to, the library that they have, pretty good library where I could just say we'll use some kind of a fabric for the seat. Right, so you can see when I zoom in, right? So I'm not using any advanced reference extensions as of this point. But if I've not yet rendered it, right? I'm just saying the out-of-the-box rendering. But if I want, I could go make it on this Render Studio, and I could make it. This is when, as I, if you look at the real-time scene information, as you can see, it gives me the rendering. You see the resolution, the number of the higher you zoom in, you see how it's rendering it, right? So this is when for this Render Studio, when I clicked on this Render Studio, that's when it's accessing the KeyShots rendering engine, right? That's what it's doing. And for that, if you had an advanced reference rendering extension, you'll be getting this also in Creo 4. Otherwise, you'll use the base package one, right? So again, all that is perspective view, and you're getting that right there. Okay, so let's see if we. Okay, so that's just wanted to leave before we get into the questions here. Just some useful links that I put together here. You can get it off of the knowledge base also, but just if you are in a previous release of Creo, or even in Wildfire, or these are some good documents to kind of get you started, right? The README first, to the platform support. I showed you the rendering in Creo 4. So maybe what about the graphics card requirements, right? Do we have supported ones? Do we need to update the driver? What have you, right? Those things, better to have your admin or your IT take a look at these, right? The checklist, there's a checklist, a nice document from PTC on that. And also what's new, right? I just gave you a quick preview in the last hour or so of what's new. And if you use Windchill PDM Link, what about the compatibility? What Windchill release should you be in order to install and work with Creo 4, right? So all that information, right, including a lot of knowledge-based articles that are available. So let me see if we have any questions in the question area. Okay, so how is the tree visible in full screen mode? So John, I think that's what I showed, right? So in the full screen mode, your model tree by default it's hidden, but all I had to do is I cursor over to the left-hand side where the model tree is. It's almost like on demand. I'm thinking I want to see the tree, so I cursor over to the left. It gives it shows it, or it maximizes it. And then when I move away from that place, it goes away. So you're essentially working in a full screen mode. And so yeah, it is available if you move your cursor near that. Do the mini toolbar customization need to be saved manually, or do they automatically remain and be available in new session? Okay, that's a great question. They are automatically saved. Now, it depends on how your admin, are they using a Creo admin customization.ui, or do they have all the users use their own UI? Just like the config.sup and the config.pro, for the user, for the customization also, there's two. You can override the users with an admin UI, or the user can have their own UI. So long story short, if you change anything, if you hit OK, it's there. But if you'd like to export to somebody else, you'll have to go to the file options and export it, just like you used to do in the prior Creo releases. Yeah, I think that's what I answered, that same thing. How do we save that? Can you use the part appearances in assemble like family table? I think your question is could be used those different part appearances that I created in the family table. Not yet. So the intent is for the different states, right? So in an assembly, I could have different parts having different colors. That's kind of what you're getting at. I see that, but it's more of a view state, right? Think of that not as a family table, but as a view state. So currently in the family table, you cannot select that appearance state. Oh, let me see if there's any other. Okay, can an existing wall be twisted? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think in my demo, I see. I see that question. So you can select the edge of a wall and then add a twist. But if you want to twist an existing wall, um, okay, it depends on how you want to do it. There's a couple of ways of doing it. There was a feature called warp, wherein you could select any part in Creo and then you can warp it. Maybe I can quickly show that here if I can. So let me just put this away here. So if you had any part, right, it could be sheet metal or it could be any part. Let's just do a simple one really quickly here. Let's assume this was a thin part or something, right? So if you go to editing, there's a warp command. And in the warp command, all you're doing is, let's see if I could select the geometry, which is the part itself. And then for the direction, I'll just use the coordinate system for now. And here you have the twist. I don't know if you have tried this. You know, you could change the axis and all that good stuff. But yeah, there it is. Right? This is what you want, right? So this is, I know it's not using the width and height and everything, but it's more like you can warp it, you can stretch it. There's so many things in here that you can play around with it, right? So this right here, right, I can stretch it, you know. So this it's just it's been there in the wildfire days itself, but that's something you can do. Yeah. Let's see what are the other questions. Can you show an example of the flexible components with variable materials? Yeah, absolutely. So if I have an assembly, let's see here. If I have an assembly here, let me just take out my rendering. Okay, so obviously I like my features and the placement folder and all that good stuff. I didn't have my config set, but here. Okay, so you get the idea here, right? So starting Creo, you know, you do have the material access from here. So I could select any part, right click, and I could simply go edit materials. As simple as that, right? I could, and then remember, this is the new materials that they have, right? Legacy material, the same old one they all have here. But my goal is to make it flexible, meaning I could just go to the top level assembly where I have this components, and I should be able to go edit materials. And let's say I want to add, I will just add PVC, just adding random some materials. You get the idea. 21. Okay, I've added about 5 materials to my top level assembly, right? All I have to do now is go to the body here, right? Make it flexible. Right click, make it flexible. And when I make it flexible, it is giving me this little, you know, where you define flexibility, right? You know, same as before. The new thing is the materials. And I should be able to add, and see, if it was a subassembly, I'll have to select the part in the subassembly, but it picked up the current material, but when I go here, I get all those that be added to the top level. So I could say, hey, this one should be this one, right? And so it should be 60, it should be 2014 right there. And I hit OK. So now, as you can see, let me expand the materials here and expand the materials here. I could use any of these, and I'm varying it. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how you make it flexible. Will this be available online for us to view? Yeah, all our webinars. Actually, let me quickly show that. If I could open up. So all our webinars, right? So if you go to TriStar's website, you go to Resource Center CAD, and it will take you to this, and you see. So a few weeks ago, I had done a Creo licensing FAQ webinar, tips and tricks, you know, all that, you know, myself and our entire team, we do it on pretty much all the PTC products, whether it's Windchill PDM Link, whether it's automation, inside of Creo, or maybe automation apps for Windchill, PDM Link, or it's MathCAD. So we do have an engineering team that has been in industry, and so we're spread across the country. So we support pretty much all the PTC products, right? So we do have quite a lot of good informative videos in here. You could always go to our YouTube channel. TriStar has a YouTube channel, and this one that we are going right now, that we are delivering right now, should be available in this area as well, right? So as and when we get the recording done, I mean by today or early tomorrow, we should get this up in this list, right? These are all the prior Thursday webinars that we have done. So if you want, you can take a look at those. It'll be very informative. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. Can we get a copy of this record? Yeah, when you say the copy, yeah, it's more like, yeah, you have to go to our YouTube channel or to our TriStar CAD Resource Center, and you can view it, right? In mirror assembly for reused parts, let me just read that question. Take it out. Read it. So, okay. Oh, there you go. In mirror assembly for reused parts in pattern, okay, will it update the assembly as the pattern changes? If it's dependent, yes, right? It depends on how you, so remember when you're mirroring an assembly, there was an option to make it geometry dependent, and there's also an option to make it placement dependent. So let's say, I'm just envisioning your question like this, right? Let's say you had a flange with a bolt hole pattern, right? And that is a subassembly. And you change the bolt hole pattern, right? For example, I don't know, from 9 holes to whatever, right? So the placement is updating, the bolts update. So if on the mirrored subassembly, if you were to reuse it, it will also update, provided you had selected the dependent placement option. And how do we obtain a copy? They all, yeah, it's available in our TriStar's website or in the YouTube channel. When customizing the mini toolbar, how can you take it to another computer? So all you do is your file options, right? Any toolbar customizations you have done, right? You should be able to export it, right? So see, this is all the customizing, right? If you click on this customize, you have ribbon, quick access, shortcut menus, keyboard. So all these, right here. So if you see this, this is a right mouse thing, and there's a mini toolbar. So all these customization, you should be able to hit export, right? And you can say export it, right? If I say export, you see this is the one I was talking about earlier, where it creates a Creo parametric customization.ui. Now your admin could rename this and say admin, Creo admin parametric customization.ui, and he can roll it to the entire company. But I would think everybody prefers a different UI, so this is something that should be left at the user level. But this is how you export, and then you can import in another computer, right? This works, by the way, for ribbon, right? You can export, import, even for quick access toolbar. Anything, this whole export thing, it's great that you can save that UI out and then bring it back in. All right, just, let's just click and answer, get to a few more questions here. Assembly appearances that use part appearances. Oh, no, I see what you mean. No, they don't have a way yet to reference the part appearances at the assembly appearance stage. Yeah, that'll be nice to have. Yeah. Did PTC include assembly section rep with exclude? Assembly section rep with exclude. I mean, let me make sure that I get that right. So it's more like, if you exclude some component, right, in an assembly. So for example, I'm going to represent, and I'm going to exclude this, right? And what you're saying is you go to section, you should still be able to create a cross-section and everything, right? With extrude component. I hope I'm getting that, maybe the question right. But I mean, in an extruded assembly, cross-sections has always been possible. On the GD&T, are the drawing datum shown in the 3D? No. The reverse is true. The datums that you set up in the 3D are shown in the 2D. Are there any changes in the cabling and wiring modules? Not much on the cabling and wiring modules. I don't think they even have the mini toolbar yet on that. Is there any advantage between KeyShot and the new advanced rendering? Actually, the rendering engine that's working inside of Creo 4 is KeyShot, right? It's kind of like a lightweight KeyShot. Some of you may have used the full KeyShot, but what PTC did was, if you remember the old PhotoLux library and the Photo Renderer library, so depending, you had to buy a license of advanced rendering extension, ARX. Now, if you're a customer that owns ARX, you essentially get that Render Studio. So when I went into applications and clicked on Render Studio, I have advanced ARX. That's why I was able to access the KeyShot rendering engine. So it's not different. It's more like that's what is running, starting Creo 4. Can appearances be used in drawing views? Great question. Absolutely. Using the all state. Remember, there is in the view manager, you have a combination state. So in the combination state, you should reference an appearance state, and the combination states can be shown in the drawing. Florence says, oh, we were 12 engineers watching your presentation. Oh, thank you. I'm glad it helped. Yeah, it was just a quick overview. I know we went over time, but hopefully all of you got a quick overview in an hour. But again, the resources here, I think just to recap here, if you want to know more about those time-limited offers that we are running through December 28th, right? The following, it's about, you can get more information or reach out to your reps, right? The trade-in of your existing active licenses to get the one of these 3 extensions here, right? Or the 3 extensions, I should say. And then on the training, on the PTC training, and also to the MathCAD, if you use MathCAD for engineering calculations, as you know, it can drive a Creo parameter with the MathCAD worksheet, and also the perpetual licensing, right? So perpetual licensing is coming to an end in 2017. So a few things here, and we talked about where you can access such recordings, right? Whether it's on any simulation, data management, CAD, and TriStar's YouTube channel, right? And I want to just talk about these last 2 things. I mean, if you're a maintenance-paying customer, please create a PTC.com user customer account, and they have a lot of resources in here. You can search for anything, right? And it should be available there for users. And then the learningexchange.ptc.com. This is a good resource for all of you. A lot of videos in there, right? You should be able to go to Creo, depending on what you use, right? Windchill or Creo, and it's a good. I would bookmark this, or I would add it as my favorite if you are a Creo user. All right, let's see. I think we got pretty much all the questions here. Let's see if there's. Okay. All right, so just to kind of remind you on this, time-limited offers that we are running through the end of this quarter or this year. And these are the links. You can either go to our resource center, or you can go to our YouTube channel. But this recording should be made available hopefully by tomorrow. All right. So thank you all until the next webinar. Looking forward to seeing you all in the next webinar. Until then, you all have a great rest of the week and a great weekend. Thank you.